Good morning, friends. Time to get some stuff done on the bus. We got a gig that we're going to, actually a men's retreat up in Michigan. These are a lot of fun, and I'm actually gonna be taking Andy and Brandon with me to play drums and bass. So it's gonna be a blast. But there's a handful of things on the bus that we gotta do first to make sure that this beast is ready to take us there and make sure we get there and back. So here we go. All right, so here's what we have going on today. So when I was down in Texas, I tried using the AC, the back section, only a couple times. And on the way back up from Texas, I was like, oh, I'll cool down the back. Since the engine's already running, it runs off a belt, auxiliary belt off the engine. I'll go ahead and just have it run so that the front end doesn't have to cool as much as the back end. You know, keep it cool so when I go to sleep, be a nice, good temperature. Fortunately, it snapped the belt. So I got a new belt for that, so we're gonna put that on today. The alternator was also acting really weird, and at sometimes it'll put out 14 and other times it won't put out anything, or it'll put out like 11. So I have a new alternator coming today. That's going to be kind of fun because the alternator on this bus is right back in here. So this whole thing's got to come off. We're going to have to work in and around all these hoses. And then the other thing was, in all this rigmarole, the heating stuff stopped working as well. I believe I got the heater door actuator fixed because I installed that already. And that was an issue that we had before. But now I only have defrost. So I watched in our YouTube video, and you basically have to replace the vacuum hose line, which is from here all the way down underneath this madness into the floorboard of the passenger side. Downside of that is you essentially would have to take all this stuff out to be able to get to it. There's a trick though. I'm going to try to do it, and hopefully it works. If not, we're just going to be on defrost for a while because it's going to take me a while to get all this stuff out if that's what we're doing. But we basically have to attach a vacuum hose line to the end of this one. We will pull it back up this way, and then have a string or another line attached to it so that it can come all the way up here, so we don't have to actually go down in there. So the only unfortunate part was the video that I watched had some cuts in the line already that was already there and already existed. Unfortunately, those don't exist in the line that I have, so we're gonna figure it out. But that's why you're here, it's because we're figuring all this stuff out. So alternator, vacuum hose line, and AC belt all got to go on today, and then we should, the alternator is not here yet, and I have the AC belt and the vacuum line, so we're going to do that this morning, get that done, and then hopefully what I'm kind of hoping to do is tear everything out, so as soon as the alternator gets here later this afternoon, I can just throw that bad boy on and we'll be set to go. The other crazy project is that car needs to have its transmission fluid changed, and that's also coming today. But if the bus isn't ready to go, we're taking that. So I'm gonna start with the bus. Hopefully the bus will get done, then we can jump on that one. But we're gonna start and see what's going on. All right, so this is really hard to see, but basically this up here is where that vacuum line comes in through the firewall, and then it comes all the way to this plug. The problem is I was having an issue getting this plug it undone here, and where I was told there should be a disconnect here, and that's just an O-ring. It is 100% fully attached on there. So I got to figure out how to essentially make sure that when I pull this, that one, this needs to go up to the top of the bus, and then I need to attach something else to this line that pulls it up with it, so that we have everything together. But I can't pull it this way because if you see in there, there's that T connector that's in there, that won't come back through this firewall this way. So we got to go up the other way, which is totally fine, but I got to figure out how everything's attached in here. whether or not I need to cut it. And hopefully when I cut it, I actually already have something attached to it. Otherwise, we're gonna have other issues. So that's game plan number 1. All right, so here's what I got from O'Reilly's the other day. We got some more hard tubing for it. We got some caps, and then these are vacuum tube connectors, which I really wish that they would just have some that's specifically for like the 1/8 inch. Like I need one of these, so I had to buy 2 of them in order to be able to make 2 different connecting points, which again, I know that's probably not that big a deal, but like same thing with here. Like these are, I didn't know what I needed, so I was glad there were a bunch of different sizes here. But the reason why I went with these and not anything else was because I knew for a fact how these connected. The other ones, I think, were only half of it. So they have, because this line's so small, you have a jacket that goes over top of this, and then you also have a little plastic connecting piece. Well, you'd have to buy the jacket and the plastic connecting piece, and they only had 1 or 2 that was for 1/8 inch line, as opposed to having like a whole kit that was 1/8 inch line. So I'm sure if you're doing a lot of different things on your vehicle and you want to be able to have a bunch of different things, that's fine. But for this, like, I feel bad. Like I'm not going to end up using 3 out of the 4 things that are in this little packet because there's only 1 that I actually need. So anyway, that's what we got. I'm going to pull this out, and I think what we're going to do is I'm going to tape this to the end that I'm going to pull up and through underneath of it, so that this is already in and through, because what I'd like to do is use this as the new line completely. So we're going to try that and see what happens. All right, so I did a couple of things. One, I added this wire is literally connected to this. 3 feet is probably the shortest 3 feet I've ever seen in my life. So I connected it to the actual air tube. So if for some reason the 3 feet doesn't fit all the way through, I can pull this back if I need to. I also connected this purple wire all the way up there. You can see it to everything else here. I'm going to cut the air tube here so that everything can flow through there. But then I've got 2 things going through that I can pull back. I have the actual air hose, and then I also have this much longer wire. So again, if we need more space or whatever, this is already wired in. Or is taped directly to the air hose, the other air hose, and then this is taped on top of all of it. So hopefully we don't have any issues with needing to rip half the van apart to do this. So I'm going to cut this here so I can get this through. Then hopefully I can reuse this connector on some level. We'll see how that works once I pull this out, and then we're just going to go up top and pull everything through nice and gentle as much as we can, and yeah, we'll see what happens. Okay, well, I lied. Not really on purpose, but the video that I had watched had talked about this connector on the air hose line. So the connector does exist on this side. The problem is this was so stuck that this grommet or whatever was shoved all the way in here, and it was just stuck. So it took me yanking on it to get it out. So I can reuse the grommet, which is good. I quite possibly might be able to just cut a little section of this air hose and then be able to put one of the connectors on it, so this doesn't have to be as long. But I only had to make 1 cut so far, so I got to pull everything up through the top, and then we might be able to reuse this section down here. But I did want to make that correction. The dude who did the video did an excellent job. He was correct. My bus is just weird and didn't see it, and was not set up exactly the way that he had said, just because I'm sure somebody else has already done one of these fixes maybe. So anyway, on to pulling it from the top. All right, so the air hose is connected up here. We gotta disconnect this guy, and once that's disconnected, great. So this is all the way down underneath the windshield washer fluid. So we just need to looks like I already see it coming over, which is good. We just gotta make sure that we don't lose anything in the process. I'm gonna go get a screwdriver because it looks like it's kind of, well, I can get my finger there. Actually, I might be able to pull it down this way. Just gotta go over. Let me grab a screwdriver real quick. Alright, so this is And just a little bit this way. Let's see here. Ah! Lost you. I apologize, it's hard to see, but right down in here is where the T bracket is caught. All right. Whew. And everything made it. So this is what I've heard, is that this vacuum line stuff works really well. However, this stuff, this little piece, as you can see, is definitely way worse rubber. Yeah, absolutely. So it just goes to a air vacuum reservoir that we don't need. So I can either, well, and that's the thing, this thing doesn't really need to be here. I've heard that people just kind of capped it off. Let's see, let me see what we're doing on the other end. Like down here, I'll turn my light on. We still got plenty on this end. So that 3 foot was definitely enough, but I just wanted to be safer than sorry. So we'll go ahead and start figuring out how to use the connectors that I have to get this stuff figured. So this is actually a check valve, so I'm going to try to keep this. I think what I'll do is I can either send it back down that way, but it'd be better to keep it on the so this I think most of it is just going to be decisions on thought processes. Go ahead and use the new air hose, and then this can all right, so here's what I decided to do. To best utilize what I have and what I don't have, I am going to actually put the check valve directly into this here with the cap on it. So if I ever need to replace it, it's already here. And then I'm going to take the new wire, put the other connector on it here, and then make sure that I tape this up good, and then put that on there. Or I can use one of my newer connectors and put it on there as well. So then on the other side, I'll just connect this to the wire that I cut off after putting the grommet on it, and it'll all actually be back together, which would be pretty awesome. So I think this stuff might be slightly less thick. It's the same diameter on the in the middle, but it's slightly less thick than what we have. So we're just gonna, yeah, try to make it work as best we can, and I'm pretty excited. Hopefully this will finish up pretty easy, but I'm gonna go ahead and slide this around so it's underneath the fill up neck, and then this will just live up here, and we'll go down and fix everything else down there. But pretty excited that this fix is pretty easy. I think the alternator, the more that I'm looking at it from sitting right here, might be a little bit more difficult just because of all these other AC hoses and everything else. So that one might be a trip to figure out. But we're going to tackle that later this afternoon, or later today. And next after this, we'll get to the AC. Actually, I don't know if I should put the AC belt on, because I'm going to have to take the serpentine belt down at least. We'll get it figured. We're going to get this done first. So, need to reroute this underneath of here, and then get it connected up here somehow, and then connect the other end. So, things I wish I had known before traversing on this whole thing was that a lot of these lines or whatever are just press fit. So not that you should just start yanking on stuff, because you got to figure out what's going to work for what you're doing, but you can just yank on a lot of them and be able to pull them out, which is nice, because then you don't have to, you know, buy a million different things unless they really are needing to be replaced. But so far, from what I've found and what we're doing, it seems like everything is the way it should be. So we're gonna go ahead, and part of me is wondering whether or not I should leave that purple thing there in case for some reason I lose that vacuum line. But honestly, I feel like that might be an overabundance of caution. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and pull it and not leave anything behind. And I may actually test it first before I do that, just to make sure, so I don't have to double my work. But we're gonna go ahead and get these two connected after putting the grommet on, and see if it works. Now, you're gonna see if it worked. All right, well, I forgot that the batteries were dead because, well, long story. But essentially, I dropped it off to get tires done. Tires got done, it was having a hard time starting. The batteries were like dead, I think because they were trying to get the little plugs to heat up or whatever. Anyway, it was like 30-some degrees. This bus does not like cold at all. So they jumped it. I drove around for like a half hour, but I didn't drive very far and basically came back here and parked it, and so the battery's dead. So I need to put the battery on the charger so that I've got a fighting chance of actually having the ability to start. Once I start it, then we'll test it. So test to come. While we're waiting, we will go ahead and work on putting the belt on. So the last belt that I got was a green one, and then I think it was more like a lawnmower style grade. At least that's what it seemed like from the guy. So I went and got one of these belts. I told him what it was for. He suggested this belt. It was great. Got the wrong size. Anyway, got the right size last night. At least I hope it's the right size. Because it's a different style belt. It is a little thinner, but I'm hoping that it actually will catch the pulleys a little bit easier. And actually, I said that I wasn't going to do this until I got the other stuff off. So I guess maybe we'll wait on that. That one shouldn't take too long. I'm going to take the battery off, put it on the charger so it's ready to go, and then maybe I'll start pulling stuff so that when the alternator gets here, we can throw that in. Because that might be a chore. So we'll get started on that. We will let that charge up the rest of the day, and hopefully by the time we need it, it will be charged up and ready to go. So I will, there's a couple of things I gotta go check on inside, and then we're gonna come out and start tearing stuff apart so we can get to the alternator so we can put that in as soon as it gets here. So more to come. All right, sorry, forgot to bring you along. Still waiting for parts to come in, but I went ahead and removed the airbox, which is right there. And we got to figure out how to get this out without messing with a whole lot of these hoses and things. And so that might pose an interesting problem. So we're going to do the best we can to just try to see exactly how all this stuff's supposed to come in and out. A lot of this stuff is all for coolant and AC stuff that's also connected with the top rear mounted AC. So trying to keep it as intact as possible because I really don't want to be doing anything with the AC stuff. But you know, we'll see kind of what happens and how, but it does look like there was you yeah, this heat shield or whatever is doing not a whole lot of work. I did find a piece of the belt from the AC stuff all the way up here. That AC belt tensioner, you can see straight below that little there, the tensioner for that, and then it goes right on the front. That's the other part that we're going to put on later. But right now I'm going to try to get this tensioner pulley off so we can loosen the belt, and then start figuring out what bolts and stuff we need to take off in order to be able to get this thing off. Abby just said it's lunchtime, so I'm going to come back and worry about getting that socket and everything else when I get back, which hopefully I'll be able to. Oh, I see it. Not really sure how I'm going to get to it though, but we'll figure that out when we come back. All right, well, still trying to get the alternator off, but new one just came in. Same with all the stuff to fix the Blue Expedition. So now that we have the parts, it's just my fault for not getting this off yet. So I'll tell you what I'm dealing with, because it's kind of a rather pain in the butt. But this line and this line are super rigid, as well as this coolant line that's split off here. But I have one bolt back here that does not want to budge, and I have another bolt that is underneath these two lines that I haven't even had a chance to get yet. So I'm going to keep cranking at these. It's going to take some time, and mainly I don't mind that it takes time. I just eventually wanted to let loose and not break anything in the process, because I really don't want this to turn into a 2-week thing. I'd rather just be an afternoon thing, and it's 2:30 in the afternoon, and I have Thursdays at 3, actually at 3. So if I can at least get this one off in the next half hour, so I can game plan and try to get the next one on, that would be most excellent. So I'm gonna keep going after it. Epic fail. So part of the reason why the video is cutting to this here now with me sitting in my studio is because I just spent probably past 6-7 hours after the video stopped. Batteries ran out, so I went to go charge them, and then I tried my hardest to get that alternator to come out. And it didn't want to come. And so it got to be about 7 o'clock at night. And I was like, you know what? I need to drive this tomorrow. It still works. It's not great, but it has moments of brilliance where it'll put out 14 volts. So since I can't get it out, I didn't want to destroy anything else trying to get it out. I put it back in. So it was at 7 o'clock. I just started putting it back in. And I finished putting it back in. Got the belt on for the air conditioning. Threw the battery back in it. Ran it. That's part of how I got the belt on it. And checked it. And the alternator is only putting out like 11 amps. So it's just as bad as it was before, which kind of stinks. But it does work. And we'll be able to drive it tomorrow. And then I came inside at just 10 o'clock. So my hands are still a mess. I didn't even get dinner tonight. So I had some cereal when I came in. But all that to say, it's going to have to be a job for another day when I've got maybe a week to work on it. Or because it seems like what's going to end up happening is I'm going to have to take a lot apart on the front end to be able to get it out. It was either the shroud that was going over top of the fan that was getting in the way, or the other pulley. And I don't have a socket that will actually get the pulley off. So I might have to try to take the entire pulley assembly off somehow. It's just where those lines are for the air conditioning is just really, really in a bad spot. And so just trying to figure out every which way to try to, I tried pulling it up, I tried pulling it kind of down, tried pulling it sideways and twisting it, and it just did not want to come out. Good part is I did find a hose, a little right angle hose that's metal that had a pinhole in it. I'm pretty sure it was part of the cooling system because it had coolant coming out of it. But I fixed that because I actually knew where it was because I heard it. So nothing else. Got that fixed. AC's done. Still I'm not getting the heating, the blend door actuator is not working properly. I actually unplugged it and plugged in an old one to see whether or not it would actually twist, and it was just dead. The fuse is totally fine. My guess is there's either something going on with the actual door, because I thought I heard the door moving when the bus was off. And it seemed like it was warming up, but it just, something else is going on with that. So I got to figure that out. The one thought that I had was, well, maybe it's because the alternator is not putting out enough juice. And so it's just not getting what it needs. So anyway, if anybody has any ideas about how to get an alternator to shrink so I can just pull it out and then take another one and shrink it and put it back in, that would be great. The one that I got sent from O'Reilly actually had a crack in the housing too. So at some level, it's a blessing in disguise. Otherwise, I'd have put it in anyway because I wanted the project done and wasn't going to take it out until it didn't work. So blessing there is I'll take it back in. I'll get a new replacement for it that's not cracked. And then I will tackle this job and figure out a better way to actually pull it out. Thank you guys so much for watching this crazy day. Even though things didn't turn out the way I wanted to, it's still good to be able to see you guys. So appreciate you guys. Feel free to like this video. It helps me out a ton. Subscribe. Check out some of the links below with my music, with some merch and stuff that you can get there, and the latest song that's available. So appreciate you guys. Have an awesome day, and we will see you on the road.